All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out. Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Well, the names have all changed since you hung around, but those dreams have remained and they've turned around. Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Who'd have thought they'd lead ya? Back here where we need ya. Back here where we need ya. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell, coming to you from the broadcast center of the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. We're going to be talking about cyber social identity and personal protection this hour. My guest is Robert Siciliano, and he's appeared on CNN, Fox News, CNBC, MSNBC, ABC, World News Tonight. Let me see. Good Morning America, The New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Time Magazine, Fortune, Forbes, Entrepreneur, and many others. The website is Safe for Me. Safer.me. SAFR.me. And Robert, welcome to the X Zone, sir.
Good day to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's our pleasure. This is a big problem these days, cyber social identity and personal protection. How did you get involved in this, Robert?
Oh, I've been engaged in personal protection really ever since I was a kid. My story is kind of an evolutionary, process. At the age of like 12, I was with my little brother, and my dad let us get in the train, and we went into downtown Boston to do some shopping. Mm-hmm. And back then you could do that and not really worry about it. And we got off the train in the center of downtown Boston, and 5 kids approached us and demanded that we give them our money.
Oh no!
I was really not prepared for that, and I refused, and they beat me up and they took my money. And I go home all kind of beaten up. My dad sees what happened, and he sat my brother and I down, and he explained to us that those boys. He made us watch like the Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, right? Which was a PBS show on animals. Yeah. And I'm watching like the lion attack the antelope in the plains of the Serengeti, and my dad said to us, he says, "See that antelope? That's you and your brother. See the lion? That's the boys." And he said, like, it always has been, it is, and it always will be like that. And your job is to recognize who's the predator. And you need to understand that you're always going to be looked at as being the prey. And so you need to understand personal protection and self-defense. So he got us into karate and kickboxing, and we learned how to protect ourselves. And over the years, I started to see, like, young women in my life that had been sexually assaulted. Okay. And here I am. I'm just a teenager, and a young teenager. And I know girls that have been, raped. Mm-hmm. And mind you, like, I'm 55. And so we're going on like, 40 plus years ago. And we didn't have conversations about sexual assault back then. Like it just wasn't a thing that we discussed. Like we didn't even know about sex, never mind rape. And so I kind of like asked my dad, like, what is going on here? And I got the birds and the bees conversation and forcible rape in the same dialogue. And so at an early age, having this knowledge all had a very profound effect on the way I viewed the world. And so from that point on, like, it just became a mission for me as a teenager to teach all those around me what they needed to know in regards to personal protection. So from my own victimization to seeing other people victimized, and now knowing that like somebody's got to do something about this, or having a sense or a feeling that like I felt like I needed to do something. And really from that point on, it just became a focus and a mission. And then over the next like 15 years or so, my small business got hacked in the mid 90s. And it just like everything just kind of came together in such a way where there wasn't anybody doing anything about it to my knowledge. And I just felt like my goal, my mission when it came to personal protection was not just physical violence in the real world. It became, you know, in the virtual world as well, you know, and that became like preventing hacking and identity theft. And it just kind of evolved over the course of, you know, 10, 15 years. And here we are, you know, 40 years later, and this is what I do.
Exonation, Robert is a security expert and private investigator with 30 years of experience, a #1 best-selling book author at Amazon.com of 5 books, and the architect of the CSI Protection Certification, a cyber social identity and personal protection security awareness training program. He is a frequent speaker and media commentator, and he's the CEO of SAFR.me and head trainer at Protection Now LLC. Robert, how has the internet changed our personal security, and what do we need to do about it?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of things going on there. You know, the World Wide Web is just that. It's worldwide, and it's open to everybody. And so what you post, what you like, what you share, what you put out there, it's available for everybody to see. And so there are a number of implications in regards to your information being out there, right? So we know there are what we call information brokers that sell our data, right? And then there, of course, there's social media. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's LinkedIn. And all of these sites, you and I, are the actual product. You know, the majority of these sites, like the social sites, are free for us to engage in, right? But we are the actual product. We are what's for sale. And so your name, your address, your phone number, your email address, right? What you like to eat and consume, and shows you like to see, and music you listen to, and pretty much anything and everything about you is all being compiled and disseminated and categorized and being sold and marketed. And that has a number of privacy implications. And in some cases, it also has security implications as well. And those are two very different things. You know, privacy being like what people know about you and how they can exploit that data and invade, you know, your personal privacy, or exploit that data and actually physically invade you and your data in such a way where they can steal your identity, or they can even burglarize your home, you know? And so knowing all of that, knowing the information's out there, knowing that everything you put out there is being looked at and used and potentially abused in some way, should make you pause before you actually engage and put it out there to determine how could this be used against me in a number of different ways.
Robert, how is artificial intelligence going to work when it comes to the brokering of personal data and the implication it might have on hacking in the future with computers?
So right now, what I'm seeing in the initial stages of it is that we know ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
ChatGPT is a well-known, you know, brand at this point. And there's also what's called Fraud GPT, and Fraud GPT is also a brand. It may not be an incorporated brand, but it's a brand, and it is one that is being sold and brokered on the dark web. And so right now, studies show that there are as many as 200 right now, and there could be very more as of the show, websites or brokers or companies or service providers that are providing AI-based tools to commit fraud. So, for example, AI-based tools that might create fake AI voice clones, fake AI video, fake email or phishing emails, all designed to convince you and I to give up that username and passcode, to fork over our credit card information. They pose as FBI, CIA, Secret Service, whatever your version of the IRS might be, and so forth. And they are designed to trick us, to give up our personal information, to provide them a wire transfer, and so forth. And that right now is happening as we speak. And just over the past 6 months in Hong Kong, a company exec was convinced that he was speaking to fellow employees at another regional division, and ultimately wired the equivalent of $25 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that just happened.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And now think of it like this. Just think if you are contacted by what you think are, colleagues.
Yeah.
Okay. And via email or even via telephone, and they and the voice of the colleague sounds like your colleague over the phone, and then they send you off a follow-up email, right? Which has all the markers of it's your colleague, like the signature looks right, the email address looks pretty much right, like everything about the email looks like it's your colleague, and based on the phone call you just received from them that was their voice, you're like, yeah, this is my colleague. And then the colleague says, hey, let's set up a Zoom, because we've got like some significant transfers that we need to make, and in that process, right, they set up a Zoom call, and that Zoom call, right, video, obviously, and the faces and everybody you're looking at is everybody who you know to be your colleagues. Now, based on a phone call, based on an email, and based on video where you're actually looking at the person, you know what this person looks like, you would do what that person requested, because why wouldn't you? Okay.
Listen, Robert, I've got to take a break here. Please stand by. This is very interesting. And Dexo Nation, this is going to be 1 hour you will not want to miss. Our guest this hour is Robert Siciliano, and we're talking about personal security, social security, cybersecurity, and personal protection. We'll be back on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network, on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, around the world on classic1220.ca.
'Cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. 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 We always could spot a friend.
Welcome back, everyone. Our guest is Robert Siciliano, and we're talking about cyber crime, social identity, and personal protection and theft. And Robert, before we went to the break, you were telling us, that if you receive an email from somebody that you know, and you check the email address, and it looks like the legitimate one, the signature on the email looks like the legitimate one. And not only is this done, but then there's a Zoom meeting set up, and you look at these people, and you hear these people, And to the best of your knowledge, these are the people that you work with. Now, you've received the email, you've received the request, you've done the chat. And are you telling me that this is all fraud?
That is what has happened. That is what is happening, and that is what is going to continue to happen. That is coming at a high rate. So all the technology that we enjoy today is evolving faster than we, as I guess, the consumer public are capable of understanding in a way where we are unable to differentiate what's real and what's not. And that's a huge problem, because we've become so accustomed over the course of our lives originally to believe what shows in the mail. And then eventually, as we had television, we believe what we see on TV. And as we have radio, we believe what we hear in the radio. And as we have telephone, we believe what we hear in the telephone. And now with the internet, we've certainly learned that there are all kinds of frauds and scams, that you're not supposed to believe what you receive via email or via chat, and that not everybody is who they say in online dating. And all of that is like all lessons that we learn through pain if we get scammed or defrauded or betrayed or lied to and so forth, right?
Yep.
But
go ahead.
With AI, oh man, with AI, you can't, like, growing up, my mother said to me, believe nothing of what you hear and half of what you see. Okay.
Exactly.
And now you can almost believe nothing of what you hear and nothing of what you see. And I'm not, spreading fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is happening. and it's awesome and it's awful all at the same time.
There's been the Nigerian prince scam, email scam, and the number of email scams are crazy. Then you get the telephone calls. It's a robotic voice that says it's the Canadian Revenue Service. They've done an audit. You owe them so much money. Or the grandparent scheme, where they get somebody they call up representing themselves as a member of law enforcement, and they tell the people that their grandchild has been arrested and they need so much money in order to basically make bail. And these are all the different schemes. And I'm telling you, I was a cop before I did broadcasting. Back then, our biggest thing was bounce checks. We didn't have the technology that we have today. And I can only imagine the amount of caseload that the internet has actually dumped on the laps of federal, local, and municipal police forces, as well as you as a private investigator.
Yeah. And that caseload just keeps piling up. And the majority of the time, local law enforcement, they don't even bother addressing.
Yeah.
They'll fill out a police report, and that's the extent of it, because 99 out of 100 times it's crossing state lines, and it's out of their jurisdiction. And beyond that, it goes to federal,
right,
whatever that might be. And even with federal, they're not even dealing with anything unless there's been losses in excess of $100,000. And even then, if it's an individual, they're usually not going to follow up on it. If it's an entity, they might. And really the only follow-up that they might do is to see if that particular crime is related to other crimes, and if it can help them connect the dots to a larger organized entity that's responsible for a variety of different frauds. And even then, it might be perpetrated from Russia. Then what? Or China. Now what? Nothing. There's nothing. You're not going to get any cooperation from Russia or China.
Of course not.
So you end up having millions to billions of dollars in losses for consumers that you just have to suck it up. There's nothing that they can do, and there's no reimbursement.
No.
They might sue somebody, for depending on where that transfer of cash might occur. and ultimately, it gets tossed out of court because the judge finds that the consumer, just they made a mistake. It's just getting uglier and uglier by the day, and the primary issue here is not the technology. It's not the advances in technology. The fundamental issue that we have here is that human beings, you and I, we trust by our nature. And it is that fundamental trust that we are born with, that we possess, that we live by.
Mm-hmm.
As an interdependent species, you and I require that we trust one another. We need that in order to survive as a species. Without fundamentally trusting each other as a species, we would falter. We would eventually dissipate. We would not procreate. We would not function. We wouldn't be able to get out of the house, interact. We would eventually die off. You understand that? Like I know
sure
you
do.
perfectly do.
Yeah.
So not trusting each other is actually a learned behavior, right? When we are young, something happens when we are young. Generally, like it could be like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. You're playing with another child, and that child hits you. That child hurts you. That child takes something from you, and you are in physical pain, or you've been betrayed, and you cry, and you are hurt emotionally, whatever it might be. And you learn that Johnny is not to be trusted. So next time you see Johnny, you're like, whoa, I got to stay away from Johnny. He's like a mean little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And we learn through that physical pain, through that hurt, through that betrayal, that some people aren't to be trusted. But here's the deal. We still want and need to trust others. And even though we know that Johnny isn't to be trusted, sometimes we may still give Johnny the benefit of the doubt. And when he does it again, we're like, okay, I'm done with Johnny, but still we want to trust Johnny. And the point of all this is that throughout life, we pretty much trust everyone in every situation that we're in, including when the phone rings and an email comes in, and when you get a text message, and when you visit a website, and when you get something in the mail, and when somebody knocks on your door. And so there are so many opportunities for those who are really not worthy of our trust. And those who are not worthy of our trust, those who are, by my calculations, about 97% of the world's population, 97% of the world's population are worthy of our trust. And then about 3%, 3% we would consider sociopath, psychopath, and hardcore narcissist. And those are the people that do not experience empathy, sympathy, guilt, or remorse, meaning that by their nature, they are just bad by their nature, not to be trusted. And they capitalize on the other 97% as a way to make their living, as a way to function,
Mm-hmm.
as a way to get what they want, fulfill their needs throughout their entire lives. And we still give them the benefit of the doubt.
This must be easy picking for members of organized crime.
Oh, yeah. And they understand that 97% are going to open up the email. They're going to click the link. They're going to download the file. They're going to respond to the voicemail. They're going to engage because we want and need. Nobody wants to get in trouble. Everybody wants to help. Everybody wants to do what they're supposed to do. When somebody in authority, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, whoever it might be, right? CRS, whoever it might be, responds to us or calls us or connects with us, we are going to do what we are told to do because we don't want to get in trouble.
But where does it come to a point where consumer be aware?
Right now, yesterday,
Yeah.
10 years, it's always consumer be aware. And that's fundamentally what I teach, and the message that I provide is be aware. And it is ultimately your responsibility. It is my responsibility. Yeah. Your government's not there to protect you. Law enforcement's not there to protect you. They're just not. They don't protect. When the phone rings, you're on your own. When the email comes in, you're on your own. When you get that text message, you are on your own. And so when consumers begin to wake up and understand that, it is up to me to protect myself from predators, thieves, violence and theft, whether it's in the physical or virtual world. That's when you begin to recognize risk effectively. And most people don't, you know?
It's a hard world out there, and I think I love what you're doing, because you're out there, you're saying, listen, there are ways, but you have to take affirmative action in order to protect it. I'll help you all I can, but at the end of the day, the responsibility is yours. Robert, please stand by. You and I have to take a break at the bottom of the hour. And X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Robert Siciliano. And his website is safr.me. How do you say it, Robert?
It's safer.me, SAFR.me.
Now, for all of our listeners in Canada, there is a place where you can go to see the latest scams, report the latest scams, see what law enforcement is doing. And the site is by the Canadian government. It's called the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. The Anti-Fraud Centre collects information on fraud and identity theft. They provide information on past and current scams affecting Canadians. And they say if you think you've been a victim of a fraud or a scam, report it. All you need to do is go to any of the search engines and check for Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And Robert and I will be back on the other side of this break as the X-Zone continues from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming at classic1220.ca. X-Zone Nation, if you've been defrauded by telephone, by internet, by somebody knocking at your door, or by one of the many fraudulent websites out there that you've been conned or deceived out of your hard-earned money, there is a place where you can go. It's called the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre here in Canada. It's sponsored by the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police as well as the Government of Canada. And Robert, thanks very much for joining us. At what age, or how do we start teaching our children to be aware in this new iPhone age?
Yeah. So, look, I am, a dad.
Yeah.
I've got a 15-year-old. I've got an 18-year-old. And my kids didn't get their first phone until they were 14. Okay. And I still think that that's even a little too young. Right. And the reason why they even got a phone at 14 was because they were getting on the train and going into Boston. And we needed, to maintain connection with them.
Certainly.
And the iPhone provided GPS, and it gave us some really good insight as to their location, and it allowed us for texting and just a great communication tool. And certainly, you and I didn't have GPS as a kid, and none of that was necessary. But
Nope.
We are in a different world, and so we made that investment in them and taught them right and wrong, and and still no social media. Like, they were not allowed to have social media on those devices, not until they turned 16. And so the 18-year-old has social media, but the 15-year-old still doesn't. And that's because they have access via their digital devices to way more than they should. You and I didn't have access to way more than we should when we were in our teens.
That's
and
true.
Their brains just aren't capable of absorbing all the information that's coming at them, and all the stimuli and all of the back and forth and all the nastiness that goes on in the digital realm. And I've read all the books and all the studies and all the white papers, and the blue screens for our kids is just messing with them in a number of different ways. Suicide's gone up dramatically, and it's not good. And so and all that said, I receive a communication from a friend, somebody who I grew up with, who has a 10-year-old. And she says, because of what I do, she reaches out to me and she says, so what software do I put on my iPad, on my daughter's iPad, so that like I can monitor what she does? And I says, well, my response was, well, why does your 10-year-old have an iPad?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the point of that? And what I see over and over and over and over again is that parents are using digital devices for their kids as a babysitter.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they don't really understand the implications of what's going on there. They don't understand how, like that the way the games in the websites and everything else, social media is built. It's wired to get you to interact in such a way where it affects like chemicals in your body, your psyche, your endorphins. Like it's designed to get you to react. It's designed to addict you. And if parents don't recognize that as an adult in their own lives, and how they gravitate towards their devices, and how they gravitate towards social, and how they gravitate towards the likes, and how they can't stop checking their phones, and what do you think it's doing to a kid?
Exactly. My wife and I go out and she'll say, do you have your phone on with you? Well, no, you're the only person that I really am interested in hearing from, and you're sitting beside me in the car. Why would I bring my phone?
Yeah. And unless you're in a business where you need to be on call, why is it that you need your device with you 24/7?
That's right. Here in Ontario, do you want to hear something really stupid, Robert?
I'm listening.
Here in the province of Ontario, the Minister of Education said no more cell phones in the classroom or in schools. A lot of parents said, yes, finally, get back to learning, get back to teachers teaching. And now there's a group of parents that are starting a class action suit against the government of Ontario for infringing on the rights of their children to have iPhones in school.
Yeah, and it's those parents that really don't have a clue.
That's right.
My the elementary schools that my kids went to didn't, and they went to private school, didn't required no phones allowed. Okay, the public schools, they allowed the kids to have the phones in their lockers, and some of them, allowed locally allowed the private kids to have schools in the phones in the classroom too. And from my perspective, and from what I've been told and what I've observed and everything else that I've, what I'm privy to,
right,
it's messy. It's messy, and there's a lot of problems. And the school where my kids went to school, not as many problems, not as messy, like just not as much drama, not as much distraction,
Yeah.
And it is all that messiness and all that distraction and all that bullying and all that everything that the kids use against each other and what they're addicted to, that is just causing a lot of problems. And if you're not paying attention to those problems, then you're part of the problem.
When I was young, Robert, and I was going to high school, we had a dress code. All the boys had to wear gray flannel pants, white shirts with the school-colored tie, black shoes. The girls wore uniforms as well. I think it was a gray skirt, a white blouse, and a sweater, school colors. there was no competition to see who was wearing the best running shoes or who had the best this, the best that, or the other thing. No one. And if you needed to call home, you didn't need a cell phone because mom and dad always made sure you had a dime on you. And God help you if you spent that dime on anything on a call to call them at home. Where did we go wrong? Where do you think that society went wrong?
Well, we live in a capitalistic society, and we've got all these companies that are kind of pulling at us and offering all these various, I guess, technologies and conveniences and toys and everything else, and we as humans gravitate towards shiny and new.
Yeah.
And so as all of this is introduced into our lives and into our culture, we just consume. And that changes the way we do things. Certainly the bicycle changed the way we do things. And then the car changed the way we do things. And then the factories changed the way we do things. And of course, the internet changed things dramatically. And we continually have these new normals, right? And these new normals aren't necessarily good for us. And we don't necessarily recognize how this new normal is detrimental to our well-being until it's a bit too late,
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit too late. When you go into a restaurant, you've got a mom and dad and maybe 2 or 3 kids, and they're all playing with their iPhone, or they're all too busy with their iPhone in order to sit down and actually talk and have a conversation with their children at a dinner.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the privacy and security implications of any of this. We've talked about how...
I know, and I think it's very important for us to talk about the security implications. So how do we take what you do, your expertise, and how do we get people to better understand the dangers?
I think the parents need to kind of slow down. They need to slow down. They need to look at the fact that, their 12-year-old daughter is in her bedroom at, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Whether they realize it or not, she's potentially communicating with somebody. And that somebody that she's communicating either is or isn't what he or she says they are.
Yeah.
At a minimum, that's where you need to begin. And that the internet allows for a tremendous amount of anonymity. And so if you're not privy to what's going on in your 12-year-old daughter's bedroom at 11 o'clock at night, and you think she's just sleeping, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. And, this is not me like trying to instill fear, uncertainty, and doubt in people. I am unfortunately the guy on the 6 o'clock news that's talking about what happened in this neighborhood to this family as a result of, they're not paying attention to their daughter's digital devices, and then something really bad happened. And the reality of it is that, I did a study with McAfee antivirus not too long ago.
Right.
And that study boiled down.
Yeah, where are you there? Oops, it looks like we just lost Robert. Craig, can you please try and get him back? And what we'll do is we'll go to our commercial break because it was pretty well timed, Craig. Robert Siciliano is our guest. We're getting Robert right back as we speak. And this is the X-Zone. Oops, wait a sec. What's going on here? Hey, Robert, welcome back.
Hey. Not sure what happened there. My apologies.
No problem. We just decided to go to a break, so if you could stand by, we'll be right back after this very short break. In X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Robert Siciliano, and we're talking about cyber security, social identity, and personal protection. And his website is safr.me. This is the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell, and once again, if you'd like to contact the Canadian Centre for the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre, just go to any search engine and type in Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. It's jam-packed with information, tells you what the latest scams are, what to look out for, how to protect yourself, And of course, if you need be, you can actually file a report there. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Don't go away.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Exonation, Robert Siciliano is our very special guest this hour. And once again, Robert, thanks very much for coming on and for doing the great work that you do. Are we still issuing the massive fraud and identity theft from people who are having their information taken from their credit cards, magnetic stripping by people who, or the RF chip, by people who actually have the RF chip readers? Is that still going on, or have the banks and all the credit institutions been able to foil that?
Yeah, so the chip card, right? The chip card, if you're inserting, there's a few things going on here. If you're there's three to four different technologies in your credit cards these days. Now, first of all, I personally don't worry about credit card fraud. Meaning, like, if my card gets compromised, you know, my bank card gets compromised, my credit card gets compromised, I'm not worried about that. Meaning, like, I'm paying attention to my statements, I'm monitoring my transactions. I get what's called push notifications. So push notifications mean every single time there's a charge or a transaction of any kind regarding my bank card, regarding my credit card, I get either a pop-up via my mobile, like an app, like an American Express app or a Bank of America app or whatever it might be, and it lets me know that there's just been a charge. I get a pop-up, or I get a text message, or I get an email. Like, I get some type of a notification in real time with all of my charges, okay? So with that, I react or respond if there's a problem, meaning, like, if I don't recognize that charge or that withdrawal or that transfer, whatever the case might be, I will contact that entity and say, hey, that wasn't me. Okay, so push notifications are the best resource tool to, I guess, mitigate whatever fraud occurs, because you can't prevent card fraud. You can't. Like, there's no way to stop somebody from using your card if they have access to it. And they get access to it via, a point of sale that has a skimming device, an ATM that has a skimming device, a data breach where a retailer, or they have a massive leak of their information, and millions of credit cards or thousands of credit cards are leaked. So all of that risk that you face every time you use your card is there. And the only way to mitigate it is with push notifications, or just pay attention to your statements via the web, log in every day or every month or whatever it might be, or wait for your paper statement, whatever it might be, okay? So that's like the protection aspect of things. Like, you can't protect yourself, but you can mitigate it, set up push notifications, check your statements, pay attention to that stuff, and you're good. As far as, like, how does the fraud occur, right? So the cards themselves, you have the card, which has a chip these days, right? That's the default or the de facto method of reading the card these days. Now, do you guys still have the magnetic strip?
On some cards, I believe.
Yeah. So in the U.S., we still have the magnetic strip on all of our cards. So all the point of sale terminals still read the magnetic strip, but primarily they would prefer you insert your card so it's reading the chip.
Right.
Now, the chip can't be compromised. The chip can't be read by a skimming device. The chip can't be decrypted, and the chip can't really be hacked, and the card itself can't be compromised, meaning you can't clone a chip card. Okay, but what is still extremely vulnerable is the magnetic strip. The magnetic strip is no more secure today than it was 20 years ago, and the magnetic strip, if it is skimmed, either at an ATM or at a point of sale, which is still a real problem. And I've actually commented on the media on TV just 3 times in the past 2 weeks, where Walmart and various supermarkets in the area have all been compromised. And they are the cards that are at risk are generally the ones that are swiped opposed to inserted. Okay, so that magnetic strip is the data is in plain text, and it can all be read by a skimming device, and that information can be burnt onto a blank card, and or the data itself, the 16-digit card number, the CVV code, and the actual expiration date. All of that data can be read via the magnetic strip and then used in a virtual or online transaction. Okay, and so there's still risk there, which requires you to really pay attention to your statements.
Sure.
And then beyond that, you have the RFID, the radio frequency identification technology, which is tap to pay, right, or wave to pay, and that is equally, it's a step down from the actual chip encryption, but it is, for all intents and purposes, equally as secure, meaning you're going to have a hard time decrypting the tap to pay. Has there been situations where RFID has been compromised? Yes. Are the sleeves that you might get and insert your card into a sleeve that is designed to prevent your tap to pay or your RFID from being read, provide a bit more security? Certainly. Am I worried about that? Not at all. I'm not worried about tap to pay or wireless RFID being compromised on my card, because the likelihood of it being compromised is really, really slim. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to get that data. Really, it's the magnetic strip that's the low-hanging fruit. And as long as you're inserting your card, paying attention to your statements, using RFID or the tap to pay, you should be good.
How safe are using websites such as Amazon and Temu?
So I am, a consummate shopper. Like anybody else that likes a bargain or likes to find the best price. I'll bounce between eBay and Amazon and Temu and all other sites that I don't call myself cheap. I call myself definitely frugal.
There you go.
With a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, I've got expensive mouths to feed.
Yes.
And I learned about something called Lululemon not too long ago, which is a retailer that sells $140 leggings, and apparently my daughters wear those too. And so I'm always looking for a bargain. That being said, whenever I enter my data on any of these sites, I'm okay with it. And keeping in mind that it's your credit card that's at risk. And like I said, I'm not worried about credit card fraud. I'm just paying attention to my statements, and I'm getting push notifications. So in the end, as long as I am being made aware in real time of these charges, and I refute or potentially refute unauthorized charges if it's unauthorized, then I'm good. And that's really all you need to be concerned about in regards to your cards and your card data. Just pay attention. But studies do show that 9 out of 10 people don't. And that's where the risk is. If you're not on top of your charges in real time, do you really know of all the different places where you used your card at the end of the month? Are you going to recognize the name of all the merchants at the end of the month? And the names of the merchants don't always reflect the places in which you shopped or the restaurants that you visited. So that's one of the other benefits of monitoring your transactions in real time.
Robert, we have about 3 minutes left, and in your opinion, what are some practical tips to engage in personal protection?
Well, for one, password management's a big deal. So when it comes to personal protection as it relates to your data and your dollars and your identity, password protection is huge. Password management is huge. And that means, number one, never using the same passcode twice. And when I do my presentations in front of a live audience, and I do those, 50, 60 times a year to large, audiences of 100 to 1,000 people, and I say to them, and I ask them at the very beginning of my presentation, show of hands, and I raise my hand because I know what my answer is going to be. How many of you, by show of hands, can honestly say that you are using a different passcode for pretty much all of your online accounts? And when I ask that question, generally less than 10% of the audience raises their hand, which means 90% or 90+% of the audience is using the same passcode across multiple accounts. And that is the proverbial kiss of death, because there have been about 150 billion records compromised in the past decade. Okay.
Wow.
And those 150 billion records, those are my records, those are your records, it's all of our sensitive information, it's our credit card data, it's our usernames, it's our passcodes. And if your passcode, singular, is compromised on one of any 10 accounts that you possess, all 10 accounts are now vulnerable, because your username, say being an email address, and your passcode being whatever that passcode is for all of your accounts, is now in the hands of criminals, and they just log into your account. You have to use a password manager in order to manage all the different accounts that you have in creating a different passcode for all of your various accounts. Password management really is the worst thing about us when it comes to our digital security, and because we're just so lazy about it, or we don't even know a password manager exists, or we're scared the password manager is going to get compromised. But in the end, really, it's the password manager that you need in order to manage your digital life and your digital identity.
As happens when I have a great time with a guest, it goes by so fast. Robert, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. I hope that I have the pleasure of talking to you in the future. And please keep the great work up, and thanks for being there for us and bringing all this information to light.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself, Robert. And Exonation, if you'd like to get more information about our guest this hour, Robert Siciliano, his website is safr.me. Now, once again, for the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, all you need to do is go to your Google or whatever browser you use and just type in Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Well, let me see. Also, the X-Chronicles newspaper is available with our compliments at www.xchronicles.net. So until tomorrow night, my friends, as always, time goes by so fast when we're having fun. And that's why we're here Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight from the X-Zone Broadcast Network studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Right here on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, and streaming at classic1220.ca. You can also go to xzbn.net and check out the other fine programming that we produce, and it's all there for your entertainment with our compliments. So until tomorrow night, remember, always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Let you out into the world. Closing time. Turn all of the lights on over every boy and every girl. Closing time. One last call for alcohol, so finish your whiskey or beer. Closing time.